Welcome back to the Other Side of 45 podcast. I'm your host, Randy Black. This podcast is about taking chances, owning my mistakes, addressing generational and family cycles and trauma, completing my 50/50s by 50 list, and my life as a single mother of Gen Z. If this is your first time listening, welcome. Please subscribe and rate this podcast 5 stars. Now, this episode is entitled The Rustin Movie, Racism in the Ladies' Room, and the Wigs. So I want to begin by saying I did post a little bit about this on Facebook on Sunday because I was really upset. Originally this day, this next podcast was supposed to be I'm Not Gay, which I will have to reschedule for another day. But because of something that happened this weekend. So I started watching Rustin Movie. It's about Bayard Rustin, who was a civil rights activist. He worked alongside of the top names of civil rights activists from the 60s. It's basically as a documentary about how he was behind the scenes for the 1963 March on Washington. They have actors portraying notable activists such as, MLK, John Lewis, and I can't think of his name, who got killed shortly before the march. Anyway, Edgar Medgar. I can't even think of his name right now. Say it right. But anyway, so they were in the movie. I typically will not watch movies that highlight Black oppression. And the reason is because it really puts me in a dark place. As you may or may not know, where I work, I have 2 jobs. My first 8 to 5 job is I am the only Black person there. So, and that's typical. I've had that before, where I've worked in an office and I was only and always going to be the only Black person to show up. So sometimes when I watch stuff about Black oppression, slavery, civil rights, and then I have to go to work with these white folks of today, in the back of my mind, I'm still back there. And I'm like, I'm not my ancestors. You would catch these hands, even though I'm not a violent person. But I feel like, anyway, y'all get it. And I don't want to be like that because they have, our ancestors and those who paved the way before us, had to deal with some things that we've never had to deal with for the most part. Some Black people have had to do that. My mother's generation, she tells a story of my uncles getting beat up going to school. And my uncle's still alive. So it bothers me when white people make it seem like, this was so long ago, I don't see color. And all the regular, I don't want to talk about racism because it makes me feel uncomfortable conversations that I have unfortunately had to sit through more times than I want to recall. So when I saw the documentary, it was something different about it. And let's be clear, I did not know that my best friend, Michelle Obama, and her husband, their production company, produced this. I didn't know that at the time. I just really wanted to see it after I saw the trailer a couple times. And just so you know, Michelle doesn't know we're best friends, but if you tag her, she will. And so you should ask her, you should tag her and say, you need to listen to your best friend's podcast because she loved the movie. And I did. And it was, it showed the civil rights movement from a different angle. Bayard Rustin was a homosexual Black man in the freaking 60s. Like, come on. One thing I did not like about him, he has since passed because that was in 1963 and he was not a young man even then. Anyway, is that he encouraged Dr. King to be nonviolent. Like, throw them hands, man. What's the devil? Anyway, it worked because Dr. King's message got out, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, one thing, I am a supporter of Dr. King's message, but not method. I do think we should have been more violent. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. That we don't know what would have happened if we had. I was more of Malcolm X by any means necessary. And Malcolm X was not a violent person. But that sentiment that we just going to be nice when you are beating us up, to me is ridiculous. But I also know that I didn't grow up in that time, and I don't know what they would have done to them. Oh yeah, we do. They would have killed them, but they're killing us now. So I don't know what the big difference is. We're gonna digress. So I really like the movie. If you haven't seen it, it's on Netflix. It's a really, really good movie. I may even watch it twice. It was just that good, and I had to watch it 2 different times, which is what I'm getting to. And I'm also probably going to encourage my girls to watch it. Now, this is actually the Tuesday before Thanksgiving. As you know, I don't celebrate Thanksgiving. I am going to do an episode about what we did. I'm also doing a Vlogmas this year. I set up the YouTube. My problem with Vlogmas, the first year is I didn't understand it. And then I had problems with my phone. And guess what? I still am having problems with my phone because I'm cheap and I don't like buying high price telephones. I mean, mobile phones. I just don't. I feel like phones should be darn near free and do everything I wanted to do. And I am sending my Christmas gift to Santa, and a new phone is on that list, and a digital camera and some stuff for my hiking. But I'll just cover my Christmas gifts to Santa on my Vlogmas on my channel, The Other Side of 45. That will start December 1st. Anyway, that's not what we're here for. But I did want to let y'all know that if y'all want to write Santa saying, please make sure that Randy gets a new phone and a camera, because I want both and everything on her list, because it's going to be a really expensive list, and he need to get them L's to work, because I did not get what I asked for last year, and I don't know where he was. I was a really good girl last year and did nothing. Like, I don't even understand it. Anywho, so I watched the movie. So I watched it on Saturday. We're having a Friendsgiving this week, so I was kind of cleaning in between it. So I heard it, but I didn't see as much as I heard the first time. And then I really sat down when it really caught my attention. I was like, wow, this is a really good movie. But we also had plans to go to reception for my soon-to-be former coworker. Now, the reason why I say soon-to-be former is because she put in her 2 weeks notice, and her last day is next week. So she was soon-to-be former. She is of the Caucasian persuasion, and she and I have had some pretty controversial conversations in the office. And sometimes I think that she's on the right side of history, and sometimes I think she's leaning toward the wrong side of history. My first impression of her was she was absolutely on the wrong side of history. Absolutely. These are some of the most racist people. Like, what I want people to understand, if you are racist and you're listening to this, I'm shocked because I'm black, and and it don't matter. But is that when people think they're not racist and then they talk about other races in front of you, a black person, let me tell you something, racist, or people who think they're not racist, ridiculous. What makes you think that I think that you're not racist if you're willing to talk about another race in my face? Just because you ain't talking about black people does not mean you're not racist. Like, make this crap make sense. So that was my first impression of work when I started this job last year. And I wanted to leave. Then I found out other things about these people. Oh, honey, they're going to jail. This is all over the freaking internet. They're going to jail. And they white and rich. They probably won't. They'll probably get a little slap on the wrist because they did some defrauding things. The owners of the company that I work, they are straight crooks. But they sold the company. And as of December 31st, I will no longer be working for the crooks. Also, their trial is in January, and I think they're going, it don't matter. It don't even matter. I don't even care anymore. Like, these people are straight crooks. Anyway, so she eloped to Vegas and then was having a reception. And over the year, we got, to where we could talk. And one of the subjects was racism. And she made this comment, and she said that a black woman was racist toward her. And of course, I was like, black people can't be racist. We don't have any control. Do you know that racism is about the system? So we go through the whole rigmarole about what racism is. And she was standing, absolutely. Well, and I said, well, what happened? What did she do? And she said, she made a comment about white people. And I said, so you got your feelings hurt? Getting your feelings hurt is not racism. The woman could have been prejudiced, biased, stereotype. She wasn't racist. I said, honey, let me tell you something what happened.
This woman made a comment about white people, and from what I can remember, it was something about white people did this, and she got triggered. She wasn't saying her, it was just her race, and she felt that because the comment was against something that had to do with her race, it was racism. That is not how this works. I said, honey, the worst thing that happened to you is you got your little feelings hurt. You lived to see another day. I said, nothing happened to your salary, your home, nothing happened. You got your feelings hurt because you interpret that to mean that she was talking about you. And she even said it was, I felt like she was talking about me. Whatever, sis. So she's having a reception. So it's like, ugh. And I had already had a plan, an escape plan. I was like, look, this was not in Metro Atlanta. We had to drive a little ways to get there. And I knew where we were. Like, if you know, I knew. I was like, we got to get out of here sober and quickly. And so they hadn't opened a bar, and I had committed to be the DD. So I wasn't drinking. And the girls were able to have as much as they wanted to drink because they knew I was driving. So the girls went with me, and we get there a little late because we were out in traffic, whatever. I don't care. So we're greeted, and immediately, absolutely didn't see a single person that looked like me. I met with one of my coworkers. She's an Asian American Chinese, to be precise. She and her husband were there, and she greeted me. Hey, come sit over here with us. And honey, we was in the back corner. Oh my God. So there were a total of 6 minorities there. We were all sitting at the same table. We were all in the back and in the corner. So I thought it was hilarious. I was like, they got the minorities in the back at one table. Now, this is because I had watched the Rustin movie. So this is why I try not to watch such things, because this is where my mind was going. Plus, with certain people, I can laugh about that. So my white coworker, my white coworker who had not made it there yet had been communicating with me via text. She was like, when are you going to get there? And I was like, I let her know we were there, and she wasn't, which was weird because she got a hotel room and was very close, but they were still late, her and her partner. So we're having a pretty good time. Like I said, I had an exit plan. I was like, we're going to stay an hour and a half. No matter what time we get there, I wanted to leave before 10. I wanted to be out of there by 10. Because like I said, I've had some issues with some of the things that she said in the past. Sometimes, like I said, she seems like she's on the right side of history. Sometimes she's on the wrong side of history. But I knew, based on some of the conversation that I had, that probably her friends were all on the wrong side of history. And I was correct. There were microaggressions through the night because it was on the black people suck out like sore thumbs. And my girls looked freaking amazing. My youngest are like an absolute model. The girls were gorgeous. They were having a good time. They're on the floor, they're dancing. And so me being the only other black person, and I dance sometimes, I dance, whatever. So I had people come up to me, oh, your girls are so beautiful. They're so gorgeous. And my youngest said, one said, especially when they played black music, oh, I feel like I'm with my tribe. They were twerking on them. It was a whole spectacle. My youngest even said, I think we're here for the entertainment, to be their entertainment. It's just, y'all know how they can be sometimes. And so I had one lady say to me, because my Asian American coworker is very, very shy. Like, I have not seen anything like this in my life. And so she wanted to dance. And her and her husband are so freaking adorable together. They're both incredibly quiet. Like, I bet as quiet as a church mouse in their house. And so I could see her dancing. You want to dance? Come on. The girls will dance with you. Me and the girls will dance with you. And she was like, okay. She jumped up, and her husband was like, okay. He barely said 2 words, and he ended up getting up and dancing. We tried to get him to do some line dancing. We just was having a good time. But one of the white people approached me, honey, I don't know none of these people, okay? Let's be clear. I don't know none of the names. And so we're standing around talking, near the dance floor. I danced a little bit. It just wasn't my vibe. And she said, oh, we got to want to dance. When I was like, they've been dancing off and on all night. And she was like, and I was just motioning and pointing to the floor because I don't think they speak English. Oh my God. And I just looked at her. I said, really? Because they do. They both were born and raised here. They're from New York. And they do speak English. And she said, oh, because my neighbor, she's Asian and she doesn't speak English. I was like, oh my God.
So there were some people who got completely white girl wasted. One was lifting her dress up. She did not have on underwear. We know. Okay? We knew. It was just that kind of party. So they kept going to the bathroom. So we made it to the last two songs. The DJ said, oh, this is the last two songs. We have been having a really good time. The girls were loving it. So I told my oldest was like, okay, I'm ready now. And I was like, okay, there's literally 2 songs left. She was like, oh, I said, yeah, it's over. So while we're talking, they played the last song. So I said, okay, let's go. And so my youngest said, let's go to the bathroom. They had to go to the bathroom. Like I said, they had been drinking all night. And they did switch to water. So lots of liquid was in and needed to go out. So they went to the bathroom now. And so I was talking to my white coworker. And I was like, okay, well, we're going to head out when the girls come back from the bathroom. And she was like, you want some water? I was like, yeah, let me get some water before we go. Because, like I said, we've been dancing. It was hot. So I had been trying to stay hydrated. So she got me 2 bottles of water. And I'm like standing around like, geez, what is taking so long? So I went into the bathroom. And immediately I see my oldest. And she's like, you're on the wrong side of history here. And I knew that was code for something went down. And I was like, holy freaking cow. And I was like, what's wrong? What happened? And so she's like, they in here using the N-word. One of the ladies come out. They're all in the same stall. And had been in the bathroom multiple times that night, and they were always in the same stall together. It was like 3 or 4 women. They all went to the same stall together. I don't know what the devil they was doing in there, but by some of the conversations, I kind of got an idea what they was doing in there. So she's like, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. And my daughter was like, no. My youngest is fired up. She's like ready to go. She is on straight ready. And I'm like, holy freaking cow. I'm like, y'all get out of here. Let's go. We got to go. They're like, no. The other woman apparently who said it was still in the bathroom, scared. In the stall, scared. My youngest, I've never seen her like ready like that. I was like, you need to get out of here. Go get your stuff. Let's go. So she leaves out the bathroom. I'm trying to get my oldest to go. She's like, no. We finna handle this. And I was like, oh my God. So my youngest and I finally get my oldest out. We come out. I see my youngest talking to the bride, my coworker. So I walk over there. Y'all, she is so freaking drunk. She's like, it is so not cool. So I don't know what's going on. I don't know what she told me. I said, look, go get your stuff. We're leaving. So I look at my white coworker and she's like, her face is, she had been there when my youngest had told the bride what happened. She says absolutely nothing to me. Absolutely nothing. She just looks at me. And I said, I need to get my kids out. I said, am I going to get my kids out of here before I catch a case? We got to get out of here. So this is the thing. I had told her, my white coworker, I said, these people are racist. They're making racist and stereotypical comments. I don't like this. I said, these people are racist. And she was like, no, they're not. You know how white people who want to pretend racism don't exist, like to always tell you that you don't know what you know and you don't see what you see. I cannot stand that crap. And she laughed off some of it. And I told her what one of them said. And she was like, oh. And I was like, yeah. These people are freaking racist. I don't want to be here much longer. But like I said, the girls were having a good time. And so at that point, before now, I felt like I could handle whatever was coming, and I was. But at this point, it had completely escalated, and I wasn't there for it. So the girls are going, getting their stuff. I see them running back, going straight back to the bathroom after they get their stuff. I was like, no, let's go now. And people are looking at us. I'm like, now, let's go. So finally, they are walking toward the exit. We get outside. They're ticked. I'm ticked. The stepfather of the bride is out there, really tall white guy, and he's like, hey, you guys are leaving? Like, it's getting late. And I started to tell him, and I was like, girl, get out of here. You in the country. You are in their territory right now. Not enough people know where you are. You need to get out of here. And I say, thank you. Yes, we got to go. Thank you for inviting us. We had a lovely evening. And we go to the car, get in the car. We have the conversation. Girls are on hot. They're like, get her telephone, you contact your coworker, find out who this girl is. I said, what are you going to do? You don't know these people. What are you going to do? So we're having that conversation on the road. I'm trying to calm the girls down. We're looking at things from a different standpoint. I tell them about the movie that I just saw. And here we are dealing with this crap. Like, I am hot. So we make it home safely. It's after midnight. By the time I get home, we stop and get something to eat because, honey, they didn't have no real food, but whatever. So we were all hungry, and everybody at the reception was like, okay, after this, we're going to have to go get some food because they have nothing here. Anywho, that's neither here nor there. That's just bad form. I mean, if you're going to have people, feed them. Anywho, so, and plus alcohol, whatever. So we stopped, got something to eat. So I get home, and my Asian coworker had texted me, hey, did you make it out okay? Just want to make sure you made it home safely. I was like, yeah. I'm thinking she knows nothing about this. It's late. I said, hey, do you make it? And she, we exchanged a few, 2 or 3 checks back and forth because it's late. So I later asked her, I think Sunday, as it got, like Sunday morning, like 8, 9 o'clock. I said, hey, did you hear about what happened? Because she was still there when we left. So I was wondering, if she had heard. And she was like, no, what? I said, with the girls. And she said, I said, did you hear what? She said, the only thing I heard was, and this is what really got my goat. She says that the girls thought they heard somebody say the N-word. And so I replied, and what not thought did. And then I said, I actually went into the bathroom and the woman was apologizing. She says nothing. She said, oh, okay. So I'm like, hold up. You thought that was like, oh, okay. I tell you that this happened in the bathroom and your response is, oh, okay. So I'm hot, but I let it go. Whatever. She literally runs from confrontation, even at work. Like literally, I'm not saying walk away. I mean, run in the office. She's weird that way, but I get it. That's this is how you handle stuff, whatever. So the girls and I we're going to go see the Wiz. So we're on our way to the train station to go to the Fox Theater to go see the Wiz. And we're in a car and I asked, I'm checking in with the girls. Are you guys okay? I had posted something on Facebook about it. And I said, are you guys okay? Abana's like, yeah, we ain't got to see these people anymore. I just can't believe it. But they know my coworkers. They've met them before and done things with them before. And I told them what my coworker, the Asian woman, said. And they said, oh. And my oldest was in the passenger seat. I was in the back, and she turns around. She said, "Dog." Well, that's weird because she was in the bathroom when it happened. Skirt, what? Rewind. I said she was. And they proceed to tell me that my coworker was in the bathroom when the word was said multiple times. So I'm on hot. So I was like, okay, I will deal with her tomorrow. Now, my white, when she racist, I told her that night she was racist. So I'm like, you low-key racist yourself. So don't really expect much out of her. But what I do expect that if you know that somebody you claim you care about is upset, at minimum, send them a text and say, hey, are you guys okay? I saw this go down. Neither one of them uttered a sound. Honey, they were on straight mute. And I was ticked because I have been there for both of them when they were literally crying, contacting me in tears. Oh my God. And I was there for both of them. And the one time that you had an opportunity to be there for me and my family, you are on mute. So this was Sunday. Monday rolls around, hear nothing from either one of them. Now, my white coworker doesn't work in the office on Monday. She works hybrid, but my Asian coworker was there. So I confronted her. And I asked her what she meant by that thought. And she started stumbling. And I said, oh my God. And I said, well, it's funny because my girl said that you were actually in the bathroom. And she said, well, I was. And I mean, I didn't actually hear them say it, but I heard your girl said that that's what they heard. And, now what I did, I forgot to mention, my girl said that she ran out of that bathroom. Now, this is not uncommon for her. Like I said, she runs from stuff all the time. And so when she started describing what happened, and I said, well, I heard that you ran. And she said, well, I didn't actually run. I was like, yes, you did. I said, you do this at work. But I didn't say that. I was like, oh, really? So I'm listening to her, and she's like, well, I didn't know what to do. And it was like, I was standing near the bathroom, right? But talking to my white coworker. So I didn't see her come out. So I didn't know she was in there. So I'm listening to her come up with excuse after excuse. Yes, so let me get this straight. You're in the bathroom. You know that my children, who you claim you like and care about, are confronting people about this word, the N-word. And your next thought is to run, not come find me and say, hey, you may want to go in there and check your girls. well, I didn't know what to do. And she kept saying, well, I didn't know what to do. And I didn't know what to do. And I was so scared. I've never been in a situation. I said, and I even had to talk to my husband about it. I said, so you thought that this situation was so escalating that you needed to get out of there, because that's what you said. And so much so that on your way home, you had to process this. That was her words. I had to process this with my husband. But you didn't think, let me see how my coworker and her children, who this was targeted for, was doing. I said, so that didn't come to your mind. But your peace of mind, that's what's important. I said, I see now. What was funny is literally the day before that Friday, she was coming to me crying multiple times that day. And I was there for her. I said, all you had to do is send a text that said, are you okay? 3 words, or even better, are your girls okay? 4 words. That, no. I said, you were on mute. You didn't say a word, but you did manage to find your phone. She said, well, I didn't know where you were. And I said, you managed to be able to text me and tell me you got lost in a freaking parking lot at 12:30. But you couldn't say, hey, I saw what went down. I heard what happened. Are your girls okay? That, no. And then she came, excuses. And I told her, I said, let me tell you something. I don't expect people to pour into me the way I pour into them. But I told you, and I don't believe in loyalty. That's some kind of crap that the Christians made up that I do not believe in. I said, but I do believe in matching energy. And I said, you expect me to pour completely into you every time you're having an issue and you want to come to work crying? And the one time when I need you to show up, you are mute. So like I said, I match energy, and just like you was on mute, I can be on mute too. And as far as I'm concerned, you and I are not friends. Those days of you coming to me crying ended Saturday, because you showed me your true colors. And then I quoted her one of my favorite quotes. At the end of the day, it is not the words of our enemies that we remember, but the silence of our friends. And I would beg to differ, change that just a little bit from the late great Dr. Martin Luther King. The people, instead of saying friends, are supposed friends, or people who claim to be our friends. Because if you are on silent when things are happening and want to make sure that you're okay, but you can't even in this day and age send a text to make sure that the people who were involved are okay, honey, you are not a freaking friend. You are not. You are taking from me and expecting to give nothing back. She was crying. Oh my God, I don't know what to do. And I told her, I said, and every time she talked, it was more about her. But me and I said, everything you have said has been about you. I'm going to throw you a bone and tell you to stop. I said, because every time you come to me, because she would leave and come back and leave and come back. Oh, but I value, I said, I want you to stop. I want you to stop this. I said, because every time you come here is another excuse of why you needed to just process and how this was so traumatic for you. I have stood up from this woman in ways that she knows about them. That these people are freaking racist at my job. I have stood up for her and my white coworker. But let me tell you something. I pour a way that gets poured into me. And if you can't pour enough to even send a freaking text, and think you're going to come to me because your life is in shambles and you need a shoulder to cry on, and you give such good advice, and drought. I am straight mute. Because when I did post this, I did have a friend who reached out and said, oh my, I want to make sure you and the girls okay. I love you. That is a freaking friend who knows that something has happened and who wants to make sure that the person that they claim as a friend is okay. And I actually may take her up on this because I am hot still, and it's Tuesday. Anyway, on a lighter note, on Sunday we went to go see The Wiz. Honey, if you have not seen The Wiz, well, you can't, because Sunday was a sold out and it was amazing. Now I'm going to say something that's really stereotyping and biased and all the things that I just preached that I'm against, except I'm a hypocrite when it comes to white people. So I was telling my coworker, he's one of the CPAs, and we were talking about, sometimes, on Fridays or whatever, you talk about what you're doing. I said, oh, the girl's not going to see The Wiz. Honey, he told me his son had tickets to see The Wiz because his son and his daughter have season passes. They've had season passes since they were in high school. I liked it. I was like, you're kidding. He was like, no, my wife gave it to them when they were in high school. They loved it. They're big theater people. I'm not a theater person. I was like, and now my mom was like, you can get season tickets to the box. So anyway, his son was going. He went matinee. His son and his girlfriend had plans, but he really stayed because he really wanted to see the Wiz. And he tried to change the tickets. Apparently, you can do that when you're a season holder. I went now because I'm not, and he couldn't. So when we get there on Sunday, I'm talking to the usher for some reason right before it starts. And I'm in awe, y'all. I am like loving this. I had a great time up until the racism in the bathroom at the reception. And I was having such a good time at the reception. And then we're here at the Wiz on Sunday. I just felt this feeling of this is just me being happy. So I'm at the Wiz. I'm in the Fox. Fox is gorgeous. I got great pictures. I'm going to post them on my vlog for Vlogmas on YouTube so you can see more. I'm just in bliss, okay? So I'm talking to the usher for some weird reason. Well, she was talking to me. Y'all, I'm serious. She came to me because I was sitting on the end. And she was like, I've never seen this, And I was like, I'm looking forward to it. We're just chitting and chatting. And she said, I think the choreographer for this, I heard, was a choreographer for Beyonce's Single Ladies. She said one of her coworkers had seen it and he loved it. Y'all, it is amazing. The dancing, the singing is amazing. I mean, these people can blow. And there was some tongue-in-cheek moments. The funniness, the girls who loved it. We just had such a good time, y'all. I mean, such a good time. And so I know I posted for Sunday on Facebook. I rarely post on Facebook. That was number, I want to say 9 on my 50/50s by 50 list is to go to plays and stuff. And I did. And it also crosses off the one to do fun things with your girls. Y'all, we had such a good time. The girls were amazed. We were outside taking pictures, the lights, the people dressed up, black people. Y'all, it was a lot of white people there. That's where I was getting with my stereotype. It's when my white coworker told me that his son was really looking forward to the Wiz. I was like, really? Because I felt like that was our movie. That was my wrong. Anybody can see it. And there were lots of white people there. And laughter and the standing ovation at the end because, y'all, that music was amazing. That girl can blow. Dorothy, I don't know her name. Oh, and Deborah Cox played Glinda the Good Witch. And if you don't know who Deborah Cox is, look her up. She sings Nobody's Supposed to Be Here. And my girls know her from that song. That's why I brought it up. She was in it. It was amazing. And I look forward to going to see more plays at the Fox. And that's going to be on my list of Santa that if he can make a way for me to get season passes to the Fox, because I really would love that. And I want to go see more plays. And that's on my list of 50/50s by 50 because I do appreciate the arts. I do appreciate what it takes for these people to go in day after day, night after night, practicing and performing and delivering a performance that makes other people like, wow, and make their night, because they made my night. My whole weekend, despite the racism in the ladies' room was really, really good. And despite the fact that my coworkers turned cold and are not my friends like they claim. That's going to be a episode for another day because they're Republicans, and so now y'all understand why I did that episode to say, can I be friends with a Republican? I think y'all know what my answer is going to be based on this experience from this weekend. But seeing my girls there and the joy that we all had in this entire weekend just made me feel really, really good. And we're having Friendsgiving this week. And when I look at these type of things and I think about how far my girls and I have come, I get a little bit of sense of pride. Now, maybe I shouldn't, but it makes me think about, y'all know where this is going. The theme song for My Life by my sister, Mary J. Blige, Just Fine. Because I like what I see when I'm looking at me, when I'm walking past the mirror. Don't stress through the night at a time in my life. Ain't worried about if you feel it. Got my head on straight. I got my vibe right. I ain't gonna let you kill it. You see, I wouldn't change my life. My life's just fine. Meet me on the other side of 45 to podcast, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and sometimes TikToks. Usually new episodes will be released on Monday. This one wasn't because of what happened this weekend, but I will see you in the next episode.